Rosh Hashanah and Days of Awe, a look back and a look ahead. A look back, oh my gosh, this year. We've had about 8 or 9 months of the past year without running water. We've had 2 or 3 months without heat during winter and or fall months. We've had at least 1 or 2 months as well without electric, and without at least one of those overlap with no heat. I believe, or at least a couple of weeks of that. And then we, throughout that, I also, this past year, I got used to a synagogue in Jefferson City, Missouri, about 20-25 miles north of us. And I also got to know and where, at least to some extent, nearest place to get a sizable amount of kosher food, which is to say meat specifically, and that would be in St. Louis, Missouri. I got to a bit of an introduction to a couple of conservative egalitarian synagogues there. They were beautiful. They were big. They were too much big city for me. And they were, I'd say, to some extent, sizably classist, and that was one of the issues that I kind of had. Beyond the fact that if I were to regularly attend, it would be 200 miles round trip, roughly. And I physically can't do that. My spine is degrading. So I really can't do that anymore. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I could have, and I would have been fine. But at this point, I can't do it. I want children soon. I'm hoping within the next year or so that we'll have our first. And indeed, that's one of the resolutions, is to work at that, focus on that. To as well continue to fix up this house. We've had threatened with them starting procedures to condemn it pretty close to now, which is to say within the past 2 to 3 weeks, well, about a month, within the past month and a half or so. They thought, and even we did, that it was a leak that we couldn't find that was severe in the house, and it turns out, the best of our knowledge at this point, is it was actually to do with the city instead. Because that's the only thing that makes sense in terms of them completely fixing it and not even saying anything as yet. We hope to find news. If it turns out that even though them fixing it, it kind of was on us, I'm grateful for your help. I'm completely confused as to how it happened, because we went from a huge amount of water on the floor, feeling it sounded like a mini waterfall, and me, after I was told about the leaks and getting pipe epoxy and starting to patch up some of the, well, at least 2, if not 3 of the smaller leaks, to find that even with me then afterwards turning off the water for about 8 to 10 hours a day, sometimes 12, every single day except for Shabbat, which is, say, Friday night to Saturday night, that if anything, the speed of the water leaking increased, which is to say, first it was 300 in 1 month, then it was 600, roughly, in the second month. So, the day that they were supposed to come and just cut it off, seems like they fixed it. And with that, all of a sudden, the cold water that never worked before since we got here in May of 2018 works. So we're completely confused, but we're grateful. we've now set up with a employment specialist, an agency in that mainly run out of Jefferson City, and they're really nice. They really have been. One of them actually gave me a lift to pick up the car, which I was really worried that, oh my gosh, what the heck happened this time? Turns out it was a battery that they installed that went bad, and therefore they fixed it free of charge. They covered even the tow, and they also covered a tire rotation as well. So they completely covered that, and therefore we were able to escape that huge bill. And so now that was why we couldn't do Rosh Hashanah services, because we didn't have a working car, and we were scared that we were going to get the house condemned, and have to try and sell the car or trade it in when it proved too costly to fix. And this car isn't even 10 years old. So that was a huge thing. Now it seems the car is fixed, water is fixed, roof is still leaking. We could fix that. It's not like the ceiling is really gonna collapse in. It's not that bad yet. So I'm gonna work on patching that. And so it's now dealing with making sure for next year that we have someone to steadily mow the lawn and or help us remove the lawn. And I think the latter is going to be really the best thing. So I'm thinking of saving up money to have the backyard mostly covered in mulch, and then have after the lawn is cut, basically have it killed off by mulch, and then have me mix in the plantings. Eventually, yes, grass will creep in, but or at least some of it, but that'll take years, and long before that, I'll have things set up the way that I want. So, also, it seems like I've got things set up in terms of pain management for my spine. I have an appointment this coming Tuesday before the morning and or afternoon before Yom Kippur starts, for both pain management and an MRI of my neck, and therefore the days of awe will be, by the time the days of awe are ended, I'll have seen what's going on with my neck within 2 days online. But for now, I have the results on my lower spine, and I'll have more evidence for Social Security. And within another month or two, there's a chance even on jobs, paid employment, part-time for both my husband and I, which would really be nice. I don't really want to work full-time. I don't know about Eddie working full-time either. But something to get him out of the house would help. Something to get me part of the time out of the house would help. Even as I continue to work at, and I will, slowly fixing up this house and this property. I'm thankful for the people that have helped me get here. I really am. And I know that, to put it mildly, I've been rather an ordinary mess. And in some cases just somewhat despondent over the past couple of weeks, because it's just been such a mess. Jules, Jesse. Jack's, and I'm not sure if he ever gave it to me, but it's renamed Wiggles. You folks have helped me keep my sanity, or at least or at least in many ways, from jumping out the proverbial window, and in some cases literally, over the past couple of weeks, because it really has gotten that bad. I'm grateful nonetheless, in many ways, for all I've been through. And yeah, maybe to some degree I'm a sadist for saying that, but I really am grateful for all I've endured. Because the next stage for me is to figure out how I can make sure that other people don't. And that's not, to my mind's eye, in any way, shape, or form with politicians in rigged elections. There are better ways. I'm not sure if they're quote-unquote easier. Probably they're harder. But they've got to be done. I'll be working on, as soon as I can, Joint Brace redesign project, maybe even within the next 6 months. I'll get equipment on that, possibly sooner. Another element that I really want to work on is disabled gardening tips, and I'll be starting to post those in terms of more videos on the gardening. The goal for my next year is definitely to have the garden a lot bigger, or at least a little bit than it was last year. I'm going to get the materials and stuff together to build a small sukkah. And overall, it's time to move forward. It's time to, yes, look back. It's time to consider what else is and what else could be awe-inspiring in terms of changes. So I just want to, again, reiterate, I'm grateful as well to the people that I've gotten to, at least to some extent, and hopefully future will get to know better at the synagogue. I'll be with them soon. Thank you. Peace, joy, happiness to all of you. Shalom.